Hello and welcome to Shy Talk, an Irish history podcast. This week, myself and Jason were joined by Mr. Owen Colgan of the Hardy books, and we were talking about the big fighting man, Dan Donnelly. We also got to film this episode in our new homemade studio, it's getting there. We're making progress. You can see it if you follow us at Shy Talk History on Instagram. Probably YouTube and maybe TikTok. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll be playing it on a loop. If you come around to the house, give us a message. Message us on Patreon. Go to the Patreon. Send us a message there. We will organise a time for you to come around and we'll watch it on TV together. Which we can't be more fair than that. I'd also like to give a shout out to Will McGrath for this episode, who I believe got his first shift down by the Dan Donnelly basin / statue. So, fair play to you, Will. I also want to plug the live episode before this episode, May 25th, in the Wild Duck in Dublin. We're doing another live show. It'll be fun. I enjoyed them anyway, you know. Everyone I talked to afterwards is like, yeah, it was pretty good. So, you know, go to the show, I guess. It's on the 25th of May. That's a fair bit away. You can put it in your calendar. It sold out last year in the Wild Duck. And since then, they've upped the capacity by another 40 seats. So that means even more you can come this time. But anyway, you can find a link to that ticket from our link tree. If you Google Shy Talk History, you can find the link tree in the bio of our Instagram. Or email us at shytalkhistory@gmail.com. The email hasn't got a shout out in ages. But yeah, that is it. This is an episode with a very funny man. That it was great to get a chance to record with him. And a very interesting story written up by Jason. So here you go. Enjoy the episode with Dan Dancing Donnelly.
Gather around now, you're in for a story. Old tales of lore, all in search of a glory. The history and mystery of lads, lasses and all. Discoveries and voyages, the rise and the fall.
Follow me now as we go back in time. Retrace the steps of Irish lineage to find Joseph from Carlo and Kevin the dog. Guide you through the ways of Shy Talk.
We did this whole Breaking Bad style, had a thing on the GoPro of just following her around as she was doing all these different jobs, and cut all of that. By the end of it, I think they had to use something in it, and it was just a shot of the the banner outside.
Oh Christ!
And it'd be yeah, we make boxes.
Yeah, you're in a corner there with that kind of stuff, you know. If someone pulls plug on everything, you're kind of screwed.
Well, we've been watching a lot of this Canadian TV show, Nirvana the Band the Show.
Nirvana the Band the Show.
Great name.
It sounds good. It sounds good.
And the whole thing is
Canadian humour is good.
Yeah,
Nathan Fielder's classic.
Nathan Fielder's. We were actually just watching that clip this morning of Nathan Fielder. Did you ever see the one where he's talking to the gas station guy, and the guy starts talking about how he drinks his grandson's piss?
Yeah.
And it's one of the only times he breaks character because he's like,
yeah,
what?
Or some other lad calls him a demon of something. What was it? Fucking you're the Phantom of Lies or something like that.
The Phantom of Lies.
Yeah. And he had to kind of turn his face away because he was laughing as well. So,
or was it your man who was doing they made a special about him, but they had him in before as the Bill Gates lookalike.
Yeah.
And then they did a special of looking for his long lost love from years ago. And at some point, then he was like, "Why didn't you pursue the love?" And he's like, "I wasn't sure of her." He's like, "Why?" He's like, "You gotta know where you're putting it." And you just see him fucking he's gone.
Yeah, I love when they create a character like that though. That's good.
Yeah.
You know, because
he's such a stony face.
Exactly. Yeah. You just don't. You almost believe that that's him all the time. You're like, oh yeah, he's like that all the time.
Yeah.
He just so happens to be able to present whatever he's saying, and then you see him laugh. You're like, oh right, it's an act.
Yeah. It was the
It's
same.
a good level to be at.
Nirvana the Band the Show was just kind of weird. It was the same style actually. It was they come up with plots loosely. Every plot of the show was revolved around them wanting to play a gig at the Rivoli, which is just some shitty club in their town in Toronto, and it would just be them trying to break in there. But it was all a sort of hidden camera, half camera stuff where they would go around and act out the film, but they wouldn't get permission for anything, and they would just film on the scenes, on the streets, and then take people's reaction and work it into it.
Okay.
Which was very good until they got in trouble for Well, yeah. You can only go so far with that sort of stuff.
I think I heard before there used to be like some rapper, and he'd find out where big rappers were doing their music videos.
Yeah.
And he'd shoot it, but he'd just shoot it from a different angle. So like he'd be able to use some of the stuff in the background, make it look like it was part of his video.
That's very clever.
Yeah.
If you just go to the same location and then splice in there.
Exactly. Maybe get a
shots.
drone or something.
Yeah. Not bad.
I think that could have been Little Dicky or one of them lads.
I was going to say, I've seen that one, where he, and he asked them, he's like, I'm filming a music video for free.
Yeah.
He's like, can I get some of that stuff or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
I met him in Texas at on Paddy's Day, because it was during South by Southwest, and I was like, it was right around the corner from my work. I was like, if I got half an hour off, I went down, got to see his show. He was great. He did something where he got to lap dance on a girl, but he sweat so much on stage, it was disgusting.
Oh, really?
It was great, but he got a great reaction from it. It's like, I don't know if you get away with it now, but
Well, like 3 years later, times have changed.
Times have changed. Lock him up.
But no, I met him after then because he was doing a meet and greet, and I was like, I just don't actually know one in the queue at the time, so I was like, just jump in. I was like, it's the crack, and he was like, don't be pulling that fucking fake Paddy shit on me. I was like, what the fuck are you on about? And we were properly, it was like, I was getting annoyed, and then he was getting annoyed.
Right, okay.
I mean, he thought
he
it was faking it because it was St. Patrick's Day.
Okay,
gotcha.
And then eventually, I don't know what it was I'd said that just
You
clicked
could
it.
pass as American though as well, you see.
I suppose, yeah, especially over there when it's 40 degrees, I tan up very well.
Especially over there where it's in America.
Well, there is that as well.
More,
sometimes,
yeah.
Yeah.
There's not too many Irish left in Texas.
What did you do for Paddy's Day this year? Have we started, by the way?
Mhm.
Oh, we're going. Okay, cool.
We'll see. We'll ease into it.
We'll
What
softly.
nothing. I did a gig I was out on the Thursday night, and I did a gig in town on the Friday night, and the gig was on Capel Street at about 9 o'clock. And walking down Capel Street up to the Black Sheep, Jesus was just a great example of Brazilian culture.
Oh,
The
yeah.
world wasn't an Irish man. They were going nuts. They
Yeah.
were enjoying themselves. I'd say
Loving
there wasn't a Dublin man anywhere near the place.
Where is it? Capel Street.
Capel
Oh, yeah,
Street.
you did
So, like,
pedestrianised all that. place now.
Pedestrianised it, panty bars there. There's
Yeah.
loads of cool places to hang out, and the place was thronged, and it was all just Brazilians having
Yeah.
a class time.
Yeah, that's great to see.
It is great to see. They're doing better with it. We teased it up. They've taken it now and made it just more.
They've added in a
attractive.
bit of flavour, like, you know.
They have, yeah,
Added in
yeah.
the dancing and.
I was walking down the
Food.
street actually, and there's two people just shifting in a doorway,
Go
and
on.
a load of Brazilians went past, and they're like, "Yeah!" I say, that's fucking
Their
that's
culture,
the melting pot
it
there.
mixes well with the Irish culture. the
It
Brazilian,
does,
you know,
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's a good blend.
It is because it's
But they do the things sober that we need to get locked for, like
Yeah, that annoys
dancing
me.
and shifting
Yeah.
and all of that kind of
They're
crack.
confident, like in real life.
Yeah.
They don't need the drink.
No.
Yeah, that's
No.
the thing, you see.
They're very. I remember being hungover once and going into some bar, and there was a salsa night on. They didn't realize it was on. I was just sitting in the corner, hungover, nursing a pint, and they were all just salsing and with their fucking Brazilian ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just
Oh,
being
yeah.
handsome, and I could barely lift my pint to my face.
Yeah,
It
I
was-
tried
it's
that
rough.
salsa crack before, but I always needed a couple of drinks just to get going. Like,
But I suppose that at some point the Brazilian women like that about the Irish lads, just the more
That's,
reserved kind of
I
somber.
suppose so. Yeah, you
they're
definitely.
like-
Yeah,
they
you play
can-
up to that then a bit. You're like, oh, this is something exotic about us. We're reserved.
Yeah.
We all know some round-headed, red-headed man who's married to some Brazilian 10 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Don't question it.
I know. He's just like, that's the way the world works, you know.
That's
So
what- yeah, the way we see them is how they see us sometimes.
yeah,
Maybe.
I find that hard to believe.
I find it hard to believe as well.
But
I'm
I've heard that
choosing to
though.
think
I've heard that. I
yeah.
lived with like some Venezuelans before, and they're like,
Yeah.
they were like, we love the accent and different things, and the blue eyes in Ireland, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Right.
You
I'll
see, you
take
never
this.
even think about
never
that.
think about these
Blue
things, you
eyes,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, so
But I think they say that when they.
I make a contacts. I make a coloured contact.
But like we come over here or they come over here and we're falling over these Brazilian women, and the Brazilians back home will be like, yeah, they're like 6, 7 out of 10s. They just look class because they're exotic over here.
yeah.
That's just jealous Brazilians back in Brazil. I'd say.
Say it again. I didn't get the maths on that one.
They would say, like the Brazilians that come over here and the men and women that we're like fawning over, they'd be like, they're not even that
Oh,
attractive
gotcha,
back in
okay,
Brazil.
yeah,
yeah.
It's literally just.
Right.
It's like Paul Mescal.
Mhm.
That's a bad example. He's a handsome man.
Like
He's
a-
annoyingly. He is. I didn't think he
yeah.
was, and I saw him on the red carpet, and I was like, yeah, bastard.
See, that's the money gone into him now.
That's
Yeah,
it. you see.
that's
yeah,
true.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sweetens up the
Moisturizers
face a
and
bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Dicky
Holidays.
Yeah.
Sure, it's all lights and
That's
post.
it. If there was no lights,
edits.
Paul Mescal wouldn't even exist.
Yeah, me and Paul in a pub in the dock at 3 a.m.
you'd
Let's see
win.
who's handsome
No,
now.
exactly. I think you'd clean up.
No, I think Paul would probably have me there.
I think that's what they say though. Minute 7's a New York 10. I think
A
that's-
minute 7 is in New York. Right, yeah, it could
I've
be.
heard that before.
There's,
Yeah.
there's a couple of hotties knocking around Minute though.
Oh, it's a great spot.
You know,
Mm.
sometimes you have to go away to see the beauty of the people.
You
of
see, they
Ireland.
go to New York and no one have an interest in them.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
too picture perfect.
Yeah,
They
I
wouldn't
got
like
you.
it.
Yeah.
They're too hard to approach. But yeah, the Brazilians. There's a big mural up on. Oh, what did you used to do for St. Patrick's Day? That
I
the
was
original question.
working in Camden, the Camden Street, Camden Place, I think it's called.
Oh, yeah.
And then I lost my phone.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to get it that night. But during the daytime, it was full of Irish people. And then around 8 o'clock, it just
Yeah.
transferred into all Brazilian people.
Yeah.
So I was looking around for the phone. I was like, do you see that phone? And there's Brazilians out dancing and everything like that. And I was looking like around. I looked like some sort of pervert, like looking at people's
Yeah,
legs.
yeah.
But I wasn't.
Getting under the tables and stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
yeah.
Looking at people's handbags.
Yeah.
But then I got up back to where I was staying, and my friend, they got on their phone. They found where the phone was, you know,
Yeah.
through that online ID thing.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, there it is. I could see it moving like back and forth between two different pubs in Camden Street.
Mm.
So I went back. I walked like another hour back to get it because I was staying outside the city. Came back into the nightclub, looking around again. Couldn't find it. I knew exactly where I left it. I'd left it on top of a toilet
Yeah.
earlier on that night. But then next day, then I got a call from a Brazilian fella.
Mm.
And he goes, I have your phone, man. I was like, you legend. I'll sort you out now. And I said, give me your Patreon. And I'd throw you 20 quid.
Yeah.
I still haven't done it. But I will tonight. Just remind myself there now.
Absolutely.
Ebo, big shout out to Ebo.
Ebo. Has he got a Patreon?
No, I don't think he's got a Patreon. No, Revolut.
Oh, Revolut. Yeah.
Revolut, yeah.
yeah.
I was going to say just vlogging, just finding phones.
I remember being
It's the next big thing.
at a festival years ago. A friend of mine found about 4 phones over the weekend.
Jesus.
You know, finds a very.
I know they got
that's-
the first time he found it, and he got it back to the person who lost it, and they, I think they gave him either cash or food, which is basically the same. And we're like, "Jesus, that's great." And then he found his 3rd and 4th phone over the weekend, and it was a bit starting to get a bit
dodgy.
suspicious of that.
Slippery
Yeah, when you
fingers
start
there,
finding that many phones,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, but he didn't put his hand in his pocket for food all weekend. so-
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, festival would be a good place to go to, like, if you were just looking around after,
Yeah, if
just
you
to see what's on the floor, like.
yeah.
Temple Bar as well.
Temple Bar would be good too, yeah.
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
did that now. I never found anything in Temple Bar.
I think a lot of the young lads down there find lads passed out in the street.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
there's
yeah.
treasures there in those pockets.
I went up to get chips here the other day, and a teenager was in the queue in front of me and pulled out like the biggest wad of cash I've seen.
Oh, yeah?
Personally, that'd put manners on you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was
There's a lot of power in the cash.
I was looking at the menu, being like, "Can I afford cheesy chips, or is
Okay,
it just
right.
regular chip?" And this fucking teenagers there with like a thick
Yeah.
hand in cash.
Jesus Christ. What do you reckon he was doing to get that?
Oh, the same as the teenagers down in Temple Bar. That we'll see them later on tonight.
Looking forward to that now.
Groups of 20 of them. It's like it's
Oh,
like
yeah,
The Wire. It's
They're
like,
meant to
yeah.
be dodgy enough, like.
yeah,
They're
but
actually
they're
grand.
They're grand to us. They're
Yeah.
absolutely. We're kind of. They walk by at the odd time and they're like, busy night tonight, lads. It's like, it's quiet, same as us, boys.
Okay, yeah.
'cause
yeah.
we're all in it together.
The ecosystem of
Yeah.
Temple Bar. We're
Yeah,
all
okay,
just
yeah, yeah.
part of it together. And then
Yeah.
occasionally the homeless as well. And they'll come up and they'll be asking for money. And they're like, are you having a good day? Are you busy for eat?
Yeah.
Okay, so you probably get to know everyone down there around
Yeah,
But to the point where it leads you into a false sense of like they were playing trap music there the other day, and I was like, this is nice now. The lads were over there playing music.
culture.
We're just doing, and then I saw everyone rushing past us, and I was like, oh no, if I was a tourist
Yeah.
and I walked into this situation in any other city, that's like,
A red flag
you
straight
gotta-
away.
yeah, don't stop and talk to anybody.
Yeah. You
It
gotta-
is
you gotta-
still, it's got an edge about it.
It was the Canadian fella last year. It was the one night I took off the whole summer just from Flyer, and I still went down and did the gig, but I'd missed the biggest fight in Temple Bar's history.
It's the greatest.
Like,
I don't know. if
to
we
this
got
point,
time
like
for
I'm
this.
still convinced. Considering that we're doing a fighting story, we'll do that
Right,
before.
he's the big hulk of a Canadian. Well, so it started off. There's the McDonald's on Temple Bar Square,
I know
and
well.
it's a great spot. So he came out, and like these teenagers come out shouting after him, like, "All right, man, what the fuck you at? What the fuck you doing?" And one of them, I think, was bruised up, and the Canadian fella was like, "Your buddy, he tried to pickpocket me. Right, he's a thief.
They're
He's
so
a
articulate
no-good
about
bri-"
the thing.
And he's so polite the whole time. And he's like, he's a brigand. And he's trying to reason with these young lads who are trying to knock him out. He's like, you need to stop hanging out with this fella. He's a bad egg.
yeah.
He's a thief. And it turned out he'd knocked the guy over and taken his shoe, the teenager.
Okay.
And he's like, he'll get his shoe back when he apologizes to me and my wife. He's done something to his wife as well. And the lads were fucking scrapping, trying to start up on him. And they all fucked off.
And about 2 or 3 minutes later, like about 20 of them came down around the corner. They'd obviously
Canadians or
the young lads.
Okay,
They'd
young
gone
lads,
to
yeah.
get, and the Canadian was still there with his wife for some reason.
Oh, he should have got out of Dodge altogether.
Oh, no, because they were coming down, they're giving it all the fucking, come on, fucking rap.
Yeah.
They're all like 15, 16. It was like a scene from the Bourne Identity, or like he just, I've never seen one man, you know those scenes in films
Every
where you're
man's
like,
fantasy.
Okay, yeah,
basically.
how
I know,
would
yeah,
one
yeah.
man fight off 20 people? They're all just attacking one at a time. He was just like dead legging, dead arm, knocking them over,
Nice
barreling
technique.
them over. Some lad ran his wife with a can and she flipped him over,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like
A crime fighting duo.
the crime fighting duo. He was
Back-to-back
knocking them
job.
over, and about 100. It was the middle of the summer, so 100 people were watching, and no one said anything.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was just watching on. So initially, when he came out of the shop, he'd been holding up your man's shoe, and he's like, "Your friend can apologize to my wife and give me $10, and I'll give him his shoe back." And so he was just clattering them out of the place, and they were limping off, and there was dust scattering. And eventually, when the dust settled, he was just standing in the middle, and he held up the shoe, and he's like, "Now it's $50, motherfuckers." It's like, this man's just living in a movie.
Yeah.
And he just walked off, and
Wow.
it was one step away from everyone in the square giving him a little golf
Wow,
clap.
Jesus
it was,
Christ.
And you missed it.
I did, yeah. And that's why I still don't think it's true.
No,
I think that it's like, because it's the one day I took off in Flyer.
Why did you check the cameras? You could always check the.
In fairness, I was talking to the guards, and
Yeah.
one of the guards down there, she said that they were back in the station. She saw it all.
No way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that they have it, and they
That'd
were
be
all
nice footage to get your
they
hands
were all
on.
having a
Yeah.
good laugh at it.
I
Yeah.
wonder, can you go back on the footage online and check?
Well, I'd say they have it
I'd
somewhere.
say that one
Yes.
they've saved away, and
Yeah.
they didn't rush down to stop it either.
No. They knew what was going on, I'd say.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
your man must have had a bit of training behind him.
He was just big, and the young lads were now. Some of the adults joined in as well and tried to beat him up, but they're all.
Getting clapped.
Funnily enough, a man who does a bit of jiu-jitsu is well able to handle lads who've been drinking cider for 12 hours
Oh,
at that
yeah,
point
yeah.
in the sunshine.
Definitely. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you go for one lad and you start chucking him out, and then you're just two lads lying on the ground.
Yeah.
And then you open for a kick, and then, like,
That's true. Yeah, I guess all the rear naked chokehold and all the jiu-jitsu that goes out the window when a lad kicks you in the head.
yeah. You want to stick to a couple of fucking sa,
and then just
give
leg
it-
it. Just like that.
Yeah.
bold in one direction.
Just
Slip
go
on the
to
fucking pebble that cobbles.
bow respectfully before the fight starts and
Yeah.
get smacked over the head.
There was a great video I remember seeing years ago on, I think it was E-Bombs World or one of those ones before
yeah,
YouTube.
way back.
Yeah, but I used to watch like car park fights for a living.
Yeah.
And one lad was fighting some other dude, and before the fight, he goes, and he just kind of goes down like in a pose like this to do like some sort of crazy karate stuff. And the other
Yeah.
guy was like, "Nah, man, I'll leave it. I'll head off." And he just didn't even bother having a fight because your man kind of like
Look the part.
he looked the part, you know.
Well,
That's
there-
half the battle.
There was
I'm
a
gonna try
boy.
that.
There was a boy in Carlow a few years ago down in the Foundry outside of that at about like 2:00 in the night, and he got into it with a fella, and then he got down. It must have been like the way McGregor used to walk into the cage, and he was like doing all of that,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
your man just walked up and just punched him on the top of the head and knocked him out.
Christ. On the top of the head.
Top of the
Jesus
head.
Christ, what a place to get a fucking slap.
Yeah.
When you're probably already 7 or 8 pints deep,
Oh,
and
yeah,
you're
yeah.
already like squatting on the ground, moving around, and some lad just decides, you know what, whack 'em all.
Proper fucking Popeye job. Hit him across the fucking can.
So it can go either way, you know. If you look the part, someone might walk away. More than
Yeah.
likely, some lad in the Foundry is going to punch you in the
Yeah,
top
that's
of
the
head.
ultimate embarrassment if you start doing loads of shit and
Yeah,
then the guy
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
walk away. You're like, "Oh, come on, please."
Come on, make my day.
Yeah.
It's your last chance to walk away. I'd love to be just a tough guy.
Yeah, it's a dream of a lot of men.
It is. It really. I
yeah.
mean, you look at films like Nobody and Feeling Lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked about this at length before, but it is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the male fantasy of just
It's
I
Kevin's
know.
dream, is what it is.
well, it's just like a Liam Neeson at 50 and he's just karate chopping
Yeah.
lads, and they're always very gentlemanly about it. They always give the thugs lots of opportunities to leave.
Yeah, and they look well doing it too.
Oh, they look well. They're they barely ruffle
Oh, yeah.
a feather.
Jason Statham is another fella. He
Oh yeah,
got to a point now where you're watching him going, it's too much.
yeah.
Pull it back a bit there, Jace.
He's quite short, which
he?
is also part of the fantasy.
I'd say
Okay.
he's of average height.
He's
I'd
probably
say
the same
he's-
height
he's
as,
the same height
all
as
three of us.
Yeah.
We've
No,
been.
I looked
been
it up and I
joking
was
there.
like, that's actually the perfect height for an action star.
Really?
Yeah,
What's he, like 5'11"?
5'7", 5'8".
5'7",
Yeah, because
yeah.
he was an Olympic diver before he was.
Is that all he is? Just
Yeah, so he's
Oh, well,
that's why he's in
yeah.
great shape and
Okay,
he's
yeah.
tiny. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you need all of
But
that.
they do
for
make
that
him look-
rolling. Sorry, not tiny.
Normal.
If anything,
Perfect.
slightly above average
Oh
height.
yeah, I would say
Yeah.
he's too tall now.
Too tall, if anything,
Yeah,
pushing
yeah.
it.
But you know who else was a great man to fight?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's
we got a
tough to
story
do.
I researched here.
Okay.
born not too far away from Temple Bar, down on Townsend Street, down from near Mulligan's.
Mulligan.
Yeah. So down not too far off Tara Street, I guess. The Docklands back then, yeah. So 1788.
That was named after Tara Reid, that street, by the way.
Tara Reid.
Yeah, Tara Street.
Tara Street,
yeah.
I had a friend who was at the whatever was one of the later American Pies, the reunion or one of those that were doing one of the premieres in Ireland, and he went and he was trying. He's like, do you know what? She's on the dance floor. She's hanging around afterwards. I'm going to go up. And then he said he walked towards her and just kind of looked at her. He's like, she just let herself go.
Okay, right.
Yeah, even then he was like too good for Tara Reid.
That's bollocks. Lads will say stuff like that, but if you shifted Tara Reid, you'd still be telling that story today.
If she invited you over to America for a couple of weeks, you'd be like, yeah, I'll go over.
Didn't Jedward end up with her in America?
They did, yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Both, you can't have the Jed
Poor
without
Tara.
the
There's a
word.
video there somewhere floating around the internet.
Yeah.
The dark web.
Yeah.
But Dan Donnelly, right, the ninth of 16 siblings. His dad, Joseph, was a carpenter with chest problems, so he'd be out of work fairly often, meaning the family was poor enough. And that also mean that Dan wasn't that educated, because as soon as he got to working age, he was out joining the dad as a carpenter.
When you said he had chest problems, like in this area, or was he just not good at building chests?
No, he was
of
just,
drawers
he was
as
more
a carpenter.
He was more of a tiddlywinks man.
Oh yeah. So 9 of 16. That's
It's a lot of fucking.
That is
a lot
and
of
then
fucking.
to be honest, I kind of left it out there. It said one place I read it, he was the eldest surviving.
oh right.
He was
Yeah.
the eldest surviving.
Yeah.
Oh, which is better than being the youngest surviving, because that would have been a shocking run then.
Okay,
Yeah,
Afterwards, yeah. But seemingly he was the eldest. He was known as a man who had a huge tolerance for the pints, an even bigger tolerance for fools. He wouldn't be like that Canadian man.
He'd suffer fools gladly.
He'd be grand with it because he wasn't easily provoked. His big feats of strength would be playing hurling on the streets of Dublin.
Okay.
Alright.
And then before hurling lads
Against
out
a
of
wall
pubs.
or with other lads? Against a wall would it be? Or
I'd say with other lads, but
Oh, yeah.
it seemed like no one would be anywhere near him. He was a big lad for the
Yeah.
time, because you're talking to 200 and something years ago. He was 6'1", 14 stone.
Yeah.
So I was seen as a
That was
giant.
big for back then.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. That's too big
That'd
now.
be a giant now.
Yeah.
That'd be Andre the Giant. I heard he was about 5'11".
He was.
Jason
yeah.
Statham size. Perfect.
But it said he never really fought anyone in the pubs unless they really took the piss, and even then it's because they were bullies, and even still he'd feel guilty about it.
Okay, so he had a great conscience, this fella.
Yeah.
He was a nice fella by all
That
accounts.
seems like, so he never fought except when he did, and it was only because they deserved it. And even when they deserved it, he felt bad about it.
Yes.
That's who wrote this.
So the book that we have most of the stories from came out the year of his death, and it was what's the man's name? That I'll come to me in a minute, but it's his wife, his widow, and one of his sisters was the main.
So
They were kind of writing the biography, so
Okay.
it was kind of like
they
the
were adding-
eulogy of a young
so they made
lad.
up the whole fucking lot.
yeah.
Well, she can't be speaking ill of the dead. It's
Yeah.
like
True,
it's-
yeah. But he was probably just in the house the whole time, hanging out with them, and he passed away, and they're like, "Fuck, we'll write a book about this lad."
Oh no, so we'll get to it. He's as we go through the story, he's don't know how nice of a man he really was.
Okay.
But if they had
okay.
left the biography there for another 10-15 years, maybe something else would have came
Maybe
out.
okay.
But
Do you reckon they were halfway through just writing a hatchet job of a book, and then he passed away, and they're like, bollocks.
Yeah.
Page 1 rewrite.
But the big story of him fighting in pubs was that there was 2 sailors in town who didn't know anything about him, and his dad was elderly at the time. They were insulting him or did something to him, so he threw him out of the pub, but not before beating the shite out of the 2 of them, and he bet them so badly.
And sailors are tough. Don't forget that.
That's
That's
yeah,
true.
It's there in the sea all the time.
Yeah.
All the
the
time.
sea is unforgiving, unlike the
Just-
land.
Exactly. Yeah. The land.
Soft.
Fuck you, land.
Fuck you.
But I think the words about that spread all across Dublin, so he was known as a hard lad.
That he'd fought 2 sailors.
2 sailors, 1 man, 2 sailors.
I saw a Canadian man beat up 14 teenagers.
Yeah, well, this is before. Like that
Before
could have been
the
a
time.
plant as
Yeah,
well. You
yeah.
don't know that man wasn't vlogging at the time.
That's
he
true.
didn't have cameras all around.
Yeah.
But it was just a time when there was a lot of gangs around Dublin, like the Orban boys, the Liberty boys, and they didn't even want a piece of Dan, such as his strength.
Parnell Dragons. Yeah.
Yeah,
the O'Connell Street dandies. But they're a gang, and they're like, oh, he beat up 2 sailors, so us
they get sailors,
40 men.
so, and like from a different land, not Irish sailors, be
Okay.
weak and spindly.
Yeah.
These are lads who.
But there's only one language they speak.
No, he'd be a vigilante. He's
Very
A vigilante.
Well, I said Dan because that's his name.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah. No, I thought it was like a new word I'd never heard of.
No,
if it's just Dante.
Yeah. Well, because I had that, and I was thinking if you get into a fight, it would be Dante's Inferno. It'd be just like but then none of the books are called anything like that. It's not. It's just called The Life and Times of Dan Donnelly.
Okay.
So it's not. They weren't very.
It's a book about a man what's beating up sailors. There's no need to be bringing like Dante's Inferno into it. It's just.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But seemingly that they were in such fear of him that if they were acting up too much, he'd go around, have a word, knock that in the head. And then because of all the words going about Dan, rumours around town, he's the strongest man around. The champion of Dublin goes down, demands a fight with him. And Dan, and a man who doesn't want to fight, keeps saying no to him. So the boxing champion of Dublin starts following him around to every pub and calling him a coward.
Oh.
And eventually that sets him off. So he meets him down at the Grand Canal and they fight for 16 rounds until the champ couldn't continue.
Right.
So then the news spread like wildfire. And also I forgot this. He has arms so long he can tie the breeches of his knees.
Okay.
I think he can touch his knees without bending.
Okay.
And at the time that's like Braveheart. You can shoot fireballs out of his arse. But here you can touch your knees.
That is a bit of a reach, yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Even I'm sitting down, I can just about do it.
Yeah, I give him that now. He's obviously.
But it shows that they weren't like that's like Braveheart was fire out of his arse, like lightning out of his eyes and all of that, and we're like, just as long as his arms,
he can scratch his
they're
knees.
a couple of inches a bit longer.
Shoulders, elbows, knees, well, not toes, but he's getting there. But he fought along the Grand Canal. That's like something out of Tekken or Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Where there's like a barge going along. And just,
and
16 rounds, like lads used to go back. We've done a few stories about these old fighters, and there's no rules really. They just beat the shit out of each other for hours.
The only rules are because you can like pull hair, you can eye gouge, you can throw them around, you can wrestle them, you can do
bite?
whatever. It's actually there's nothing against that.
Okay.
Yeah, so they say because that's the big thing in the traveller fighting, isn't it? That like you can do pretty much
no biting.
That's I remember it was a Knuckle, the documentary.
No, yeah, exactly. No biting, no gouging, I think. Another.
Oh, no gouging as well. Probably fish hooking or whatever else as well. Yeah. But even that, most of that seems it's absolutely grand. The only thing is that if a man falls to the ground, it's like Green Street, you can't hit a man on the deck.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've as
I
soon
thought
as
Green Street you could do that.
No, I think that's their one code because I remember young lads back home started their own gangs because they like Green Street so much. And if two lads got in a fight, if one lad fell on the ground, the others would rush in him and go like with an English accent of like, never do a man on the deck.
Oh, I'm going to get sick. No way, never do a man on the deck.
I tell you this.
Whereas I'd be like, if you're having a one-on-one fight with a man on the street, if he goes to the ground, you seize your opportunity.
It's like, why would you add in like a rule so like that if you're fighting some lad?
Yeah.
It's kind of like each for their own in a way.
Yeah.
I know what you mean though, yeah. You don't want to be kicking a fella when they're down either. Like.
No, you can't be kicking them, but that's, like UFC rules basically.
Yeah.
But you can do one in the stomach.
Oh yeah,
yeah, just to be like
one up the ass as well.
One up the ass, just to be like, fucking stay
there you
down.
I got you down.
Yeah. But they could do with that rule in Temple Bar. I've seen some other fights that.
Yeah.
Never do a man. Next time that happens, I'm gonna run over and be like, "Don't do a man on the deck," and then I'll get smacked in the back of the head.
Yeah, we both saw the same lad do it to two different people, like back-to-back weeks. There's a lad down there kicking lads in the head.
Oh fuck!
Yeah,
it's come back.
Yeah. He's not right in the head. Okay. We've even said it to one of the guards after. Is like, that's your man, because he came in and he was fairly shook after seeing it, and he went up to MC and he was kind of like white in the face. And I was like, "What's wrong with you?" He's like, "I've just after seen a lad getting kicked in the head."
Jeez, I didn't realise Temple Bar was so rough.
It comes the summer, it gets a lot worse.
Yeah.
Summer. I think it was just after the
there that
post-pandemic.
I thought the tourists kind of softened the blow around there. I thought people were just like chilled.
All the tourists are on the coke.
Are they?
Yeah.
No, they're not. Are they?
So the English.
Oh, no offense. Shy Coke, that's the place to go. Now, in fairness to them, I did see them do that. They brought the horse and cart down into the middle of Temple Bar Square, offering rides, selling Coke off it. But 3 English lads went up to him. So it was the middle of Temple Bar, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to Grafton Street. How much Grafton Street in the back of the thing?" And one of the lads was trying to climb in, and your man with the horse was like, "Yeah, €40." It's like literally a 60
I know,
second.
yeah. But I mean, if you're willing to pay it.
One of them was on his phone being like, "Oh, hang on, €40." I don't even know where you would have brought him. Like
anywhere in the world, though, any city has its parts that are kind of dodgy. Like Temple Bar is probably that area.
Oh, yeah.
But it's probably I was going to say it's rare. Maybe it's exactly like because it's a famous area and also probably one of the worst areas.
You know that place in Barcelona, La Ramblas?
La Rambla,
Yeah, I
right.
nearly got pickpocketed there one time. I was in one of those, those shops, the weed shops.
Yeah, looking for directions to
Looking
get
for
out
directions.
there.
Exactly, for directions to the jacks in there because I was going to get sick. But I remember I was in there and I smoked like a full doobie and I was like, that's a grand. And then I got outside and it just hit me and I was like, fuck, I don't know. I don't know where to go now. And I was walking across Las Ramblas, kind of half. I don't know if I was falling or I was like, I'm thinking I'm going to fall.
Yeah.
But then some lad was like, cookie, hush, cookie. And he kept saying to me, you're right. And I was like trying to talk to him, but I was kind of like, yeah, man, I'm okay. So then I was like, I'll pretend that I'm fucked. Or I'm a bit wiry. So like, yeah, man, are you alright? You want some stuff? Yeah. So he kind of pulled it off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now we're
So you pickpocketed him.
pickpocketed his mind, I think, because he left without much inside it. And but yeah, that was a close call. But any city in the world has like those kind of places. Like I didn't realize Temple Bar was that place though. I thought it was O'Connell Street.
One of the big parts I think was just after the pandemic because a lot of the young lads were in there during the pandemic because you were allowed to bring in plastic cups.
Okay.
Like to go pints. So lads were just coming in with backpacks full of cans and
hanging around. Yeah.
So the guards, there was just too many to stop them. So it was kind of like Paddy's Day every day.
Okay.
I saw like a Benny Hill sketch of like one of the guards on a bicycle with his luminous jacket and helmet. And he's sort of cycling after 4 teenagers and they ran down a street. And then a minute later, cycled past and the teenagers were chasing him.
Oh fuck!
like Rodney and
yeah. But there was hundreds of them, and it was literally like 4 guards on a bike. And at some point, they were like, "Yeah, fuck."
On the cobbles as well.
On the cobbles, that didn't help.
Nah, you want to get something else for the cobbles.
Jeez, it was not. Yeah, I think they did lift one of them into a van, and it looked like there was going to be a full scale riot. But they needed that Canadian man. We need you back for one.
Or
job.
Dan Donnelly.
Or Dan Donnelly.
So you should chain the Canadian guy to Temple Bar and just like have him in a loop, kind of let him walk a certain distance around, keep him in that area at all times,
like a dog on a leash out the back garden. But
you had to do your deal. You want your freedom. You want to see the maple leaves of Canada again. Got one more job for
and
you.
he just drinks pints of fucking maple syrup.
It's just knocking it back.
I can't take no more.
I wonder does the man know how much I'm talking about him?
We'll find him.
Podcast. He might listen.
Yeah, that's the thing. So the stories about Dan, they start from birth basically. It said that the doctor who delivered him said he's going to do great things for Ireland.
He slapped him on the arse and he got slapped back.
Knocked out. He saved 2 women from he saves a young woman from 2 attackers down near the Docklands, and seemingly he gets his arm mangled when he's doing this. But he
what
goes.
Is you looking at there? What is it?
I had all wrote down. There's a
I
script.
thought there was like an article online or something.
Yeah, just his Wikipedia. Then just make sure that camera's not on the screen. I don't want to see.
Career ruined.
No, it took me a good day and a bit now.
I think you used the chat. You know that chat.
GPT. Yeah. What a bit of fighting man.
Yeah, talk to me what a fighting man is.
Well, it's that doctor who saved his arm because he was going to get it amputated. He called Dan a pocket Hercules. And then there was I don't know. There's a lot of these stories. There's even
a pocket Hercules.
There's some elderly lady.
Small.
Well, no,
he's giant.
Well, yeah, but Hercules is even. He's probably even bigger.
I thought it was something to do with his pocket. Maybe he had his hands in his pocket a lot.
Maybe, yeah.
One hand. That's the nearly amputated one.
Yeah.
He leaves it in there.
One hand in my pocket, the other hand punching lads
in the jaw.
But there's loads of stories about him. Even like there's one of an elderly lady who dies of consumption or something, that some transmissible disease.
She dies of consumption.
I think so. Or is that
TB? Is it?
I thought consumption was just when you consume something, like, so maybe she was overeating.
I thought it was TB. I thought it
could
was...
Could be TB, yeah.
Could be.
Either way,
she's eating TB.
R.I.P. woman from
sorry about your
1800s.
But kind of like Jesus and the lepers that no one's willing to go near, and he goes down, no mask, no gloves. He would have been okay a couple of years ago, but he goes down, picks her up, carries her to a grave, not her grave, some grave of, so it's meant for someone fairly important, and he just buries her there, and no one says anything to him because you're not going to mess. You're not going to mess with him.
Yeah, that was a rough thing during the famine times. You hear about that a lot, where like people wouldn't even bury the dead because they didn't know. It was just a contagious.
Oh, you just leave them there, yeah.
Yeah, just I felt the energy drive out of the room there when I mentioned the famine. I forgot where I was.
I'm like, yeah, put it out here, lads.
Back to the comedy podcast.
What did the old Dan Donnelly do?
But so Dan, back then, if you had like a patron, like all the people who support his podcast. But they'd be called a fancy. They'd be like the rich people back at the time. And there was one lad called Captain William Kelly down from Madison House in the Curragh. He overheard 2 English lads laughing about how the Irish weren't, like, they were nothing to do with fighting. That they were saying that they were always saying they're courageous or they're great men, and just laughing about it. And then so he was like, right, I'm going to find this Dan Donnelly. And he goes down and says he'll pay him to start training.
What sort of bizarro world racism is this, where it's like, the Irish can't fight, you paddies, you're never drinking, you can't drink and you can't fight.
It's reverse racism, yeah.
But now see, they decided, this William Kelly fella, he gets a Scottish lad to come in and start training him. So he pays for all of that, puts him up, feeds him. He has to pay 2 guards to stand outside of his door at night so he won't go for pints. Because he has to be on it for training.
I like that, yeah. It makes sense, you know.
Yeah, that's he's like, it's and no riding, no drinking, no nothing.
Whoa, no riding.
Yeah, he's training there in secret, like Rocky
He's
IV.
He's keep the juju inside. You see, that's important.
Yeah, strong legs.
Apparently, if you
harness the juju,
if you don't spill your seed within 2 weeks, your testosterone.
Whoa.
No, it's just that you're so angry that you're very capable of knocking lads out.
Yeah. Just be careful you don't get punched on the top of the dick, like, cause that might be the only tip you need. The last shot.
It's like a monkey's paw thing. You're the worst at fighting you've ever been. You get one touch and you're out.
But they say once he's ready and he's fully trained after a few months, they set off and he challenges an English boxer who's over on tour called Tom Hall. So he accepts, and on the 14th
Tom Hall doesn't even know what's happened.
He has no idea.
Some rich man overheard 2 lads talking in a pub, was like, I'll show ye, and went and set this whole thing up. And Tom Hall is just going over to do a bit of boxing, and this fucking enraged, testosterone-fueled,
a much smaller fighter that he's meant to be. He's a dainty fighter. He's like all about, because there's bare knuckle boxing and then there's the actual boxing, and he's an actual boxer, and everyone's like, oh, look at him with his gloves and he's dancing around, lads. And then they just set this pocket Hercules who hasn't got the ride or had a pint in months.
He's like just ready to blow at any moment. Like.
You don't know what you've just walked into.
No.
This is 1814, and down in the Curragh, 20,000 lads show up to see this fight.
Nice.
In an open air field. I forgot there's something hollow, but I can't find the name of it now. But we went through the rules back then. The 30 seconds thing, if you get knocked down, that's the end of the round, and your man has 30 seconds to get back up and continue. That starts the next round. So
that's probably why there's so many rounds then.
So rounds can last 10 minutes or they can be 20 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so what happens is that Dan stands there, kind of like Homer Simpson, just getting punched non-stop, but he just keeps walking forward like a zombie, and then Hall starts getting tired, so he starts dropping to the ground himself without getting touched, because that just ends the round. And then he has 30 seconds to recover, and then he goes and pieces him up a bit again, and then falls straight to the ground. And if he ever gets near him, he does that. And the only rule is, when your man's on the ground, you can't do him on the deck.
You can't do him dirty on the deck.
Yeah, that's we all know that rule, lads.
Yeah.
That's the only one.
I'm saying.
They're pulling them off like, have you not seen Green Street? I've got it on DVD.
But the crowd hate this, because it's 20,000 Irish lads who are down here, and they've travelled from all over. They walked down from Dublin for this, and they can't see. There's no...
You can't see anything.
Yeah. Well, obviously, they can't. They're ages away. So it's 20,000 lads around like a 6-foot ring, so they're not really seeing anything. But Dan's getting angry as well, because he's just getting punched in the head non-stop. So they have...
That would be annoying, alright, yeah.
So at some point, it goes a bit too
one
far.
One lad at the back thinks he's down at the races, and it's just be like, come on.
50 quid
each way.
Go on, Dan Donnelly. God, he's some horse.
But eventually it's too much for Dan, and when Tom Hall's on the ground again, Dan just splits him open.
You can't do that.
Seemingly you can't, but he's...
How do you mean splits him open?
As in, when your man Tom Hall's lying down on the ground, kind of smile on his face, being like, you can't touch me. Dan's like, I will fucking see about that.
Okay.
And he lays him out, splits him open with his fist, and then they have to go to the judges, because Tom Hall says he's injured, he's not willing to continue. And all the Irish crowd are there going, well, you deserve it. So they have to go to the Turf Club, which are the judges at the time.
Okay.
And then they say
Well,
that
that's down the bog, is it?
they say it's a draw. And that no one's going to be paid. That's why I read that neither of them will be paid. I'd say
Okay.
they probably split the
Oh.
money. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like a GAA style, like the
Yeah,
All
yeah.
Ireland final replays. Like have them back again next week.
Yeah, yeah.
Money,
definitely. Yeah.
money in the coffers.
Yeah.
But,
Is that what TMO stands for? The Turf Men Organization. Need to send it to the turf.
I was laughing about that the other week of the like VAR, like the video assistant referee, because they say like I was telling Kev about he doesn't follow football at all. I was like, that's a great way for like lads in a stadium. They can emote a bit, they can hug each other, they can cry, they can do things that they'd never do in their daily lives. And I was like, just look at it. And I realised that when the VAR goes on, that it is just a stadium of 50,000 people screaming, VAR!
Yeah, yeah.
VAR! VAR!
Yeah.
So they can emote. That's what they
It's
can
like
do.
a pantomime.
Exactly. It's a way for them to express themselves.
Yeah. Even I was watching
I
the
can't
rugby.
believe you don't like football.
I
know,
just
it's
haven't
fine.
got the time for it.
I know.
I jump in for the Six Nations, but it is when they're showing it,
Which is a
obviously
different
for the
sport.
ref to show it. I know, but when they're doing the replay of the injuries, and it's just like, yeah, let's see it again from another angle. It's just 80,000 men in the stadium going, "Give it,
Yeah.
give me blood."
Yeah.
It is funny to see.
But that's what the Irish, looking at Dan, were basically saying that. And when they said it was a draw, they didn't really care because they'd said, well, Dan won. So they were, the
Dan was happy, so.
court of public opinion, they walked away. Dan's a superstar, king of the Curragh.
Yeah.
And then so he goes back, never has to put his hand in his pocket for a pint again. So he spends the next year drinking, gambling, riding all around him. At some point, a messenger comes to him and says that his wife was asking for him, and he said, "What sort of a woman is she?" He's like, "Do you not know your own wife?" He's like, "Is she a big woman?" Never mind. I'll come along and have a look at her just to see. So I don't think. And the fairness, the wife wrote the biography.
Okay, right.
She put that in.
That was left in.
Okay.
And I would say the sister didn't want that put in.
Do you reckon most of that story is true? Or how much of that story do you reckon is true?
I'd say he wasn't gambling.
No.
That was
But everything else
it wasn't true. He was never a gambling man. I wonder.
Why did he go to the Curragh? Why didn't he go to, we'll say, Phoenix Park?
Well,
Curragh's probably a big flat land.
They said the
Yeah.
place down there, the Hollow, is meant to be a natural amphitheater.
Oh, I got you.
So they could all go
Yeah,
down
yeah,
there,
yeah,
and I
makes
suppose
sense.
it's at a slope, so people could stand around and look down.
Yeah,
Kind of like
gotcha.
when you go to Slane, and it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
you have a great view because it's all just sloped. But
And Red Hot Chili Peppers were in Slane that weekend, so hey, they go down to the Curragh.
Yeah, I was taken already.
Yeah.
there would have been 40,000 otherwise. But blame Aiken.
He sounds like a tough man, anyways.
Yeah.
But,
What's his name? Dan
Donnelly.
Donnelly. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a tough lad.
And then so Cooper's challenge is the next year. So basically, he spends the year drinking, and then George Cooper is touring around Ireland. He's an English boxer, a bit bigger, a little bit better than Tom Hall. He hears about Dan's previous fight, and he wants to test himself. So they organise a match for November 13th, 1815. Now, so Dan goes back to Captain Kelly, your man who was paying for him to. He's like, back off the drink, back off the fighting or the riding, and then there is some case of people giving out to him about what he's eating, and they say that peas are meant to be a very bad thing for a fighter. Green peas.
Is that right?
Why?
Yeah, and so
It
he's.
sounds like peace.
I don't know. To be honest, there's no.
Makes
I would have
them
said
more angry.
it was all the other stuff, but that's the problem.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he'd said, "Is it a pea that'll kill?" They actually wrote it out as, "Is it a pea that'll kill me?" No, nor a drop of the creature, and he downs a pint of brandy.
A
yeah,
drop
yeah.
of the creature.
Yeah.
Never heard that before.
Used to call that, I think, Puccini nearly, no?
Oh,
yeah.
they'd said brandy in this.
Oh, brandy,
but you know
okay.
what? Maybe they're just trying to save face. Maybe they're,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But
Drop of the creature.
the
Crater or something like that.
Yeah.
and I suppose at this point that never buying himself a pint again. That wasn't true. He was gone fairly broke from the money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Cooper's he's starting to get back into shape. Oh, sorry, yeah, he's going.
You hear that a lot of and he never put his hand in his pocket for a drink again. That'll do you
It's
a
like-
month probably.
Occasionally,
Yeah.
yeah. Also,
Occasionally. But if you're going to the same bar in, day out, the regulars aren't going to be like.
No. They're
Fitting your- especially if you're
you
a
only
big
a pint
drinking
back,
man.
yeah.
But I remember
they're
when-
a few pints back, like.
the Liverpool
Oh, yeah.
fans always said it about Divock Origi when he scored the goals in the Champions League to get them there. He's like, he'll never buy a pint again. It's
Yeah.
like, he's making 60 grand a week.
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
meet
yeah.
him in a pub, he's like, he
should
better
be buying
be.
pints for everyone.
Yeah.
Not gonna-
Yeah. Same with Ray Houghton. Apparently, he never has to buy a pint ever.
Oh yeah.
Walks into a pub and he's like, "There you go, Ray. There's a pint of
just-
Smithwick's."
Nice.
Smiddix is his one,
Yes,
is it?
yeah, apparently.
All right, good to know.
Yeah.
That is for when we see Ray Houghton.
I will
what
have
you
him
get
on it
He was
someday.
in town the other day. There was
He'd be
some
knocking around,
Liverpool-
he'd be walking around constantly with the top off.
Yeah,
Have you seen me go?
Who stuck the ball in this net?
a video on YouTube on his phone just showing it to people. It's like rounds is
Real
fucking.
crappy tiny phone though.
But,
Trying to set a projector up on the side of the GPU.
but that Cooper fella, he was in good shape because he was on tour boxing and he was working on a barge when he wasn't seamen, sailors,
Another sailor.
strong men.
Yeah.
But and he was of gypsy descent, so he was a 10-1 favourite. Now both fighters had success in the early rounds. Cooper's boxing and wrestling was doing well. Dan's ability to get hit and just keep going, that was great for him. The fans were loving it, but then by around round 5, Dan was getting the worst of it. Captain Kelly's sister was there to the side screaming that he'd better up the game because she was after betting the house on it.
Oh fuck!
Yeah.
Always a bad mistake.
It's he'd never go all in. It was
No,
like
no.
10-1. The other odds is like, Jesus, you'd buy mansions, but
Yeah, betting the house, like
Yeah.
you know.
but then he goes down in round 5, and she goes over to him and slips him a piece of sugar cane, and he comes up like a man possessed.
Is that what they call it back in the day?
Yeah, some sort of a white powder, and then Jesus, Dan came up ready to fight.
Any rollies, lads.
Just man fucking. Oh,
I don't want to fight you. I just want to talk to you like a lot.
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
think about it.
Let's get a taxi somewhere.
Let's get a barge.
Just me and you, man. Just me and you. Come on, Cooper. But no, so it gets to the 7th round. He drops Cooper and then he falls on him. So that wins the Englishman because Dan's a big lad. And then by the 11th round, he cracks him, breaks his jaw. So Dan wins, walks off with 60 quid. I think it was meant to be a purse of 200 quid the last time, so it's, I don't know, probably not as big of a deal. But anyway, the crowd.
Taxman had to get a cut.
But that's the thing, and I suppose
Spent
Kelly
half
at
it
some
on a
point.
bag on the way out.
Yeah.
Well, the pints, he was probably already in debt from the last time. It probably was 200 quid, and just straight away it was
Yeah,
like, right,
yeah.
publicans.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
They probably had their own Don King kind of fellas at the time too.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's, I suppose that is
Is that Captain-
this Kelly fella, Captain
okay.
Kelly, because he'd be sponsoring and putting all the money up.
Oh, I
so I
got
imagine,
you, yeah.
It's like what's his sister doing in this as well? It's a whole family affair.
betting.
Betting.
She's the bookkeeper.
So they're cute enough, a lot of them, like.
Mm.
And how are lads coming up with odds back then as well? 10-1. It was like, guys, he's on a barge.
There's a lot more guesswork, I'd say, back then.
I'd imagine
Yeah.
there's no real hardcore analysis going on to
None of
the
that. No,
previous
just
It's like,
10-1 Suchi? Yeah.
what were his last fights like? To be honest, they were over in England and there's no telephones, so I'm gonna guess he's good.
But should they say that was the way with the early days of the UFC? That there was
Oh,
no
yeah.
one knew the sport at all.
No.
And like Anderson Silva's first fight, he was fighting with Chris Lieben,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone was like, "Look, your man's some man to take a punch. He's covered in tattoos. He's
Yeah.
basically an
Oh,
alcoholic."
that's it. Yeah, they thought that they were the toughest guys, the
Yeah.
ones with tattoos and stuff.
And then it was just Anderson
He's
Silva
counting
came
the
up. He's
tattoo.
like, I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
bet him around the
Yeah.
place for a
Yeah,
couple of
yeah.
rounds.
Some lad had one glove on as well at one of the first
Yeah.
UFC fights. He's like, one boxing glove and then the other hand was free.
Yeah, because he wanted to grapple with that one.
Exactly,
Yeah. Oh god, great times.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the best, the Wild West.
Yeah, the goodness has gone from the sport now. That's
It is,
what I would.
unfortunately. Yeah,
The-
like anything really kind of,
Oh.
once it gets too commercialised, you
Got
know.
too tame.
That's it.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's still good though. It's not, I wouldn't say tame like, but it's still wild like.
but you missed the old
You
days.
kind of would, yeah.
Back when it was just two lads in the curragh knocking shite out of each other
Yeah.
to 20,000 men.
It was the video before they'd outlawed like grind strikes, like when you couldn't do low blows. I don't know
yeah.
if it was in the UFC or a different
Pride,
promotion,
maybe, I'd say.
but there was just one of like the two lads get wrapped up in a leg lock, and your man, like this jiu-jitsu player, so he's like trying to tap out your man. Your man's like, and he just starts punching him in the dick.
Yeah,
and then
okay.
just KO by dick punch.
Oh man.
Again, all the jiu-jitsu in the world. If a lad
You
starts
can't train
punching
it-
you in
you
the
can't
dick,
train that.
but the crowd love Dan after winning this. They're trying to chase him,
Wait, did he
chasing
go
after
from
him.
gi to no gi after he got a pummel. There you go. That's the only jiu-jitsu joke.
But the crowd go wild at it. But Dan says he can't hang around for pints because he's after saying he's going out for drinks with the lads and the family back in Dublin. So they throw him into the back of a cart and they wheel him up to the city. Now, members of the crowd cut out chunks of the ground where he was walking by to souvenirs because his footprints were in them.
Okay.
And then there's a monument today down there called the Steps to Strength and Fame for Dan. Bronze steps. And then all the way up the hill. And then there's an obelisk down there. They got the date on it wrong. But that doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
It's not
They
important.
put the money into the steps and the
Yeah.
obelisk. They're like, just fucking guess.
That's what do you need. But sure, the main thing is they rename the place Donnelly's Hollow. So that's
That's
still,
nice.
it's still called that.
So if you get down there now, it's called Donnelly's Hollow.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I suppose it was an Irishman who beat the English at a time when the Irish couldn't do anything to the English. It was like just past the 1798 rebellion.
Yeah.
So it's like we were kind of like under the thumb, and there was one Irish lad going around beating the best of the English.
Yeah.
So he was a big star.
You could see how that would sell tickets.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Symbol of hope.
Yes.
But now Dan retires
would
from
not.
pro boxing with a record of 2-0, and he'd start
Get out when you're
doing
on top.
exhibition fights with gloves and that in the Olympia Theatre. Big crowds, but they say it's like glorified sparring. So Dan, he turns the classic way the sportsman to make money. Big name, very famous. Lots of lads wanting to shake his hand. Starts opening up pubs all around the Docklands, the Coombe, the Liberties. Joe Fallon's down.
Yeah.
That's the last one that survives. All the other ones are gone.
Did he
Fallon's,
open
yes.
Fallon's?
He owned it anyway. I don't know if he started it,
By
but
God.
yeah, he was backed by a load of rich investors who knew lads would just come down for the drink, just for him hanging around. Like footballers are always at that, just like open up a restaurant and the fans will go down.
Oh, yeah. Of course, yeah.
But Dan was a bit too.
McGregor's restaurant's over the road.
Yeah, there was a lad actually in the club last night who didn't even know it was. He said he came to Dublin because of McGregor. I was like, oh, you're going down to his pub. He's like, he's got a pub.
Jesus
No way.
Christ.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, he cleans up with that kind of carry on.
yeah. But seemingly not, because this lad said he was asking me who's your favourite fighter of all time, who's your GOAT, and I was like, it's the end of the night, I don't want to get into this now. I was like, look, probably John Jones, and he's like, for me, Conor McGregor.
He was just saying that to you, though.
No, he was
No, was he
deadly
really?
serious.
And he
yeah.
didn't even know he had a pub in town.
No,
And he
He's not a
flew
big fan.
over to Ireland to see him.
he said he went to London first and that he had to come to Dublin just because McGregor was from here, and then he
Jesus
didn't go see
Christ.
any of the air. He didn't know nothing about it. He's just like, he's
Yeah.
like, fuck it, Temple
Telling
Bar.
lads in pubs that he's his favourite fighter.
He probably ran into
Yeah.
the boys in Temple Bar, and he was like, you know what? He was like, this is the most Conor McGregor thing I'm going to do.
I hear if you hang around certain nightclubs, you can see him commit assaults. Stephen Gerrard was at his pub there last week.
Yeah.
Pictured with some Kinnan.
There's always a new ringer knocking around, yeah.
Yeah.
But now, so Dan ended up being a bit too generous with the pints. First to the customers, and then to himself. And
The old one for me, one for you policy.
5 for him, I'd say, at that stage. And it wasn't long before Dan had to get back in the ring. But this time, none of the English are willing to come over to Ireland because they've heard the stories of what went on before. There's like, he's big, he can take a punch. Like any of the big names in England are kind of like the exhibition boxers, lads with the gloves, and they're like, I don't want to go to Ireland to fight some giant who can't be knocked out in front of 20,000 Irish lads outside in a place
Yeah.
like miles outside the city.
Yeah.
That's named after him.
Exactly, yeah, named after. You're up to
How would
nothing.
Hezbollah get on against him?
The who?
Hezbollah.
Jesus Christ.
Would he take him, do you reckon?
I got so tired of seeing that lad. I was like, at a certain point where
You just
we're
want to
just
kick him, like.
but we're all just laughing at like a lad who's about 2. Seemingly he's like 20 years of age as well.
Yeah, but he's cleaning up, though.
He's making
a mint altogether.
Yeah, and everyone's making. He's the tiny little Russian fella who has like dwarfism, and all the Russian fighters basically like bring him in just for like TikTok videos.
Yeah, he's a good novelty to have around, though.
Yeah, and he's forever punching them out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And in fairness, that is class.
It is funny, yeah. Because they don't expect it half the time. I think I seen him punching Shaquille O'Neal once. Shaquille O'Neal's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
No, tell me about this.
At some point, he's going to get a slap back.
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah,
someone's
definitely.
going to be like,
That's the video I want to see.
Yeah, and just can grab him by the 2 legs and they're swinging him around.
That's behind the paywall stuff.
But so Dan was broke again at this stage, so he goes over to he starts off doing exhibitions, so he's fighting with gloves and that in Liverpool and Manchester, fighting lads who are fairly decent, but the
Wayne Rooney, Steve Gerrard, those
Stephen
kind of
Gerrard and his connections, but it doesn't go. It's busy enough, but it's not as busy as 20,000 lads outside because they can't find venues like that big. It's all smaller places indoor, and the Irish don't care because fancy gloves, rules, all of that, they don't want that.
Too much.
It's bare knuckle is what the people want.
Okay.
Yeah. So Dan's he's at some point set to go down to London to fight Tom Cribb. He's the most credible opponent he's had so far. I think he's like the English champion, and an exhibition set in London for it. But Cribb gets injured in the build-up, so Donnelly's left with like no way to really sell tickets.
Yeah.
So bare knuckle one more time, puts it all on the line. 10,000 people show up to Crawley Downs down in Crawley, like in Sussex.
Yeah.
£210 on the line to fight a lad called Tom Oliver. But now there's no.
Tim, never mind Tim Oliver.
It probably would
A
have
neighbour
been.
called Tom Oliver.
Is
What's
he
the
still going?
relation? Yeah, he's
Named after
for
him.
185 actually. It's probably him.
He's got an English accent.
He
in it.
shrinks though. He's about that height now.
Killer right hook.
he can fight Hezbollah, so.
Imagine Hezbollah's watching this going, bastards.
Bastards.
Laughing at me.
Nah.
But
I thought you were saying Hezbollah initially.
I think, I don't know, Hezbollah.
he could be into that as well.
It could be. Yeah.
But there's no Captain Kelly now because he's over in England. So it's kind of
He
like
wouldn't
when
travel.
when Mike Tyson leaves, when Gustamato dies.
Yeah,
there's no father figure there for him. So he's pinting, he's out riding, he's eating. He's spent about 6 or 7 months in England at this stage, traveling all around doing this, and he's the talk of the town. So he's basically he's doing these exhibitions against smaller lads, it seems like, and they're grand, but a lot of the public in England don't really care too much for him because he's a lowly paddy, but all the elites want, like, big lad, fish to stone, they love him. He gets knighted, or he's saying anyway, to start calling him Sir Dan, because Prince Regent, he says, gave him a knighthood for bravery, and that is true. That they said it probably just happened in a pub when he was drunk.
He just got knighted in a pub.
He took out the prince took out his sword, and it was like, Jesus, you're a brave man, and he gave him a knighthood, so now he's Sir Dan.
Jesus Christ.
That sounds like some scene for a film where, like, he bumped into him or something, and the two lads are squaring up, and they're about to scrap, and the friends are all jumping in, everyone's getting heated, and he's like, "Oh, H, Neil, you're some man, Dan. You're some man. You're all right." The big fucking.
You wouldn't get away with it now, though, because people have the phones out, and they'd be like, "I seen that fight, man. You got fucking knocked out.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I broke his hand, man.
Yeah.
Before it.
You got a taxi
He
back
tried
into
to
town."
stab you with that sword, man. I was a knighthood.
But
So now he's Sir Dan Donnelly.
Yeah, but he's Sir Dan, but his training's going bad because he's mainly just pinting. So when he's going up against this lad who is training for it, July 21st rolls around. He's been there since the early February. So he's not in great shape when he walks into the ring. But he does win 72 minutes and 30 something rounds. He finally knocks Tom Oliver out.
32 rounds.
32 rounds, yeah. So then he's famous from this, but there's no real cause for him to stay in England because the exhibitions aren't going that well, and the big money is in the bare knuckle, but he doesn't want to be doing that. So he ends the tour, goes back home with £210 in his back pocket. He arrives into Dublin to a parade, huge amount of people, on a big white horse. All through the city, lads are loving him. They've heard the story of Dan going over to England now. This time.
Yeah. Now he's on a horse, like.
He's
Doing well.
Just for size,
the
get him.
lads are like, he's like the Lamborghini of the day. He's just fucking the vehicle.
Get him. Even just for size, get him a Shetland pony, even bigger on the top of the back of it
from a distance.
But he does a couple of exhibitions in Donnybrook, but mainly he starts running a pub in the forecourts.
But you ever hear that phrase for, as a real old American one, for like a dust up at Donnybrook, like a fight?
Oh, really? No.
Because of the Donnybrook.
The fights back then.
A Donnybrook dust up.
Just like, he was in a Donnybrook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That was some old racism there.
But he mainly just runs a pub then in the forecourts for the rest of his life, which is only that's actually only a couple of months, because in February all those fights were the last fight was in July 1819. By February 1820 he drops dead in the pub at the age of 31.
Oh, geez, 31 he was.
31.
From that story, I was like, he must be 72.
No, it's probably the mind of a 72-year-old.
Oh, yeah,
he's been punched.
Yeah, but 31 could have been good back in them days too.
That's true.
The brain of like a Chris Benoit by that stage, he's kind of gone. He's they said that they don't know what he died of. It could have been natural causes. Could have been the 41 cups of punch that he was after drinking,
or
so
the
a combination of the
punches to the head.
Would have been a lot more than that. But the funeral gets a huge crowd. He's buried there in Bully's Acre in the park there in Kilbenham in Imma.
No way.
Yeah, it's in the graveyard there. I was walking by earlier on. They wouldn't let me in.
Let me in.
Yeah.
But you have to climb over the wall to get into it.
Yeah, that's why they were stopping me. They weren't a fan at all. They were like, you can come in if you want, but you have to put the shovel down.
I want dancing Dan Donnelly's skull.
But that's
for a podcast.
For a podcast. Go drink a
for
pint
one
out of
shot.
But so what happens is at the time they used to have gravediggers were around, so that Dan's
They're
friends
around now as well.
That's true. But Dan's friends keep guard for a couple of days, about a week. But it's February, so it's very cold, and there's a lot of people walking by saying, "Jesus, aren't you great men looking after your friend? Let me buy you a pint." So at some stage, the gravediggers get in, they pull him up, and then there's public outcry. They trace the body back to a doctor called Dr. Hall, and the story goes one of two ways: either he was a fan of Dan and wouldn't take the body, sent it back, or the people found out where it was, went there and threatened that they were like, either give him back or will you take Dan, we'll take your life. So he does give the body back, but not before he cuts his right hand off, his main right hand, and knocking out the English.
Oh,
So he cuts that off, covers it in red paint to mummify, red lead paint, so it's so it won't. It's basically mummified, and then
As you do,
yeah. So they send it off to Edinburgh for studying, just to see how it was.
Stick it in the post to stamp.
Yeah.
If we did just the Scottish and the Irish being like, if we can find out how he beat the English,
Yeah, literally.
we
That's
can
right.
figure out the data, then we have a chance.
So they send it
The
off.
Celtic Union's on its way.
The College of Surgeons in Edinburgh, and it's there for a good while. And then after that, it goes travelling through a Victorian circus all up and down England. Then an Irish lad who owns a newspaper in London buys
Retirement
it.
for itself.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. So it keeps going because it's been passed around. It's there's a lad a newspaper owner in London, an Irish lad buys it, so people can just come and look at it by appointment. Then it gets into the hands of a Belfast bookmaker and a publican. He has it around for a good while in the shops until he says people are getting scared of it, so he puts it up into an attic, and they say that's the haunted attic at Dan Donnelly.
Okay. People are getting scared by the arm.
Big giant arm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the whole arm, not the hand.
The whole arm.
Oh, the
they
whole
cut it
arm.
right there.
Gotcha, okay.
Now also that's when.
Did you put a pint glass in
But
it?
that thing earlier about him having very long arms, they're like, well, they can measure it now, and it's not. Unless he wasn't 6 foot, unless he was like a lot shorter and did have long arms, but
Well, you wouldn't know what lead paint to do with an arm. Could shrink it.
that's true.
That's
enough,
what you
is
see,
it?
yeah. It's got shrinking qualities to it, I think.
Yeah.
The and then it's,
Don't judge a man on like he's not at his best. You know, it's cold out.
Things shrivel in the when
yeah.
you die, you know.
but they keep it in the attic until 1953, and then the Irish Tourism Board are
In the attic.
They're doing just rummaging around.
She's like, do you have anything up there we can use?
You wouldn't believe it. I've actually got this mummified arm from a fighter from 150 years ago.
They're recreating the fight down in Donnelly's Hollow. So your man from Belfast just sends it down, so it can be like part of the parade or whatever. And then it stays down there in a pub, the Hideout. It's gone now, but it's there until 97. And then the arm was put in the basement after they'd sold the pub. And in 2005, one of Donnelly's relatives from America came looking for it, and he was doing radio interviews all around, and they'd realised they had it down in the basement. And then your man who owned the pub from before, he used to be in a band. Your man who was in the band with him was one of Aer Lingus's main pilots. So he gives the wife a first-class ticket, and he brings the arm in the cockpit over to New York. And then it's in
Why don't you stick it up in the...
just above it. Aerodynamics,
The
be
luggage.
slowing it down.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm trying to put it into the Ryanair basket to see if it'll get through.
But it's one of those, they say that like it's definitely not true, but they say it's so big that there's only 2 inches spare in the cockpit when they bring it in.
The pilot's
But
in
it's just
Yeah.
it's tiny little yoks. Yeah.
Can't get that button up there.
But,
The land button.
the lads,
And then Donnelly's finger stretches out. It's the button. That's good that he got a saving on the ticket, because if it hadn't been for his friend, it would have cost him an arm and a leg.
Ooh.
I thought it was bad enough for him that they'd been keeping it in the basement, not doing anything with it for 8 years, and then as soon as they wanted it, she was like, "Oh, I'm going to have to chaperone it myself then."
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, all the way to New York, but at least she
So
got
that
that.
arm can be seen somewhere, can it?
It went through. It was in the Irish Arts Centre in New York for a few years. Then it was up in Boston College, and then it was back in Ireland in 2010 in the GA Museum in Croke Park. And so it does tours now
Jesus.
around as parts of different.
Where's it now, I wonder?
I'm not sure.
The arm. That's
Oh, it's still
insane.
going. 200 something years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's more well travelled than a lot of people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ah. Well, there, and yeah, so it's in Oh no, you don't know where it is now. It's on exhibition somewhere.
Yeah. Google it.
Dan Donnelly's arm.
Jesus.
But that's the life and times of Dan Donnelly.
That's
Jesus,
nice.
he had a great life for
He
for
did.
what age did he die? 31.
31. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a long old fucking life.
Lads crammed an awful lot of stuff.
Crammed a
back
lot in there, you know.
Yeah. No, he did only have 3 fights.
Yeah.
But that's all you need.
But he was in the, he did a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah.
He went to England,
That was it.
Yeah.
back of a cart.
Yeah.
There was women. There was pints.
Yeah, everything you want really in
Yeah.
life, you know.
Then
Yeah.
the hand went on a celebratory like fingering tour of America
Yeah.
and England.
I'd be happy enough with that kind of life, you know.
Actually, it's not too late.
No, still, I've got, what am I now? I'm 25 now, so 6 more years to go. But sometimes you hear about people like that and you're like, Jesus, you think that they were a lot old, like Jim Morrison will say.
Yeah.
When you listen to his music or hear stories about him, you're like, he
Yeah.
must have been 70.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I think he was 33 when he died. Maybe
Yeah.
No,
27.
he's
actually.
27. He's one of the
sorry.
27 club.
27 club, yeah,
It
that's
was the
right.
same with
Hendricks and was Cobain in it as well?
I think so,
no,
yeah.
Cobain- oh yeah, but it's young and like Ian Curtis, Joy Division. He was like 23
Mm.
or something.
Mm.
They're rushing it. You need really your early 30s. That's when you really
That's
put
when you
your
hit your
best
peak.
work out.
What age you lads?
30.
Early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it now. This is our Joy Division.
The good thing about stand-up is you can kind of get good at it at any age, really. Like, you could be 50 or 60 and then kicks in.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Like, if you see Louis C.K., some of his stuff from like 20 years ago, you're like, oh, it's not bad.
yeah.
But then you see his stuff now and you're like, fuck, it's good.
Yeah.
So
You
like,
see, a lot of lads, the style as well. Stuart Lee got back into it later on, and when you're kind of like bitter and sarcastic, but you're sort of young and look good, it doesn't match
it
up.
doesn't match, yeah.
And when you get older and out of shape, they're like, "Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
this makes sense now."
Yeah,
But now
that's
you
it.
get the
Some things you
grumpy
can't talk
old
about
man.
when you're like under 40, we'll say.
Yeah.
You need to be haggard first. So
Yeah.
I'm working on that first.
Yeah.
And then waiting
Oh,
for
yeah.
the talent to kind of
Yeah.
come around after that.
But it's important to have the crazy stories to go with it too. You can't just be talking about.
No, that's true.
Stuff,
you
you
need
know?
a bit of living.
You need a bit of living too,
Yeah.
you know.
But say if you had like Larry Davis stories in a young handsome man,
Yeah, that wouldn't make
wouldn't
sense.
make any sense.
No, no,
one
no.
wants to hear that.
No, that's what you see.
That's why Seinfeld was a terrible show.
You didn't like it,
That's
no?
what it was. That was very good. That was the point. That's-
But you won't watch Curb Your Enthusiasm.
You won't watch it, no?
No, I have no time. It's
Mm.
I don't want to enjoy myself.
It's good. It's good.
It is. And
It's
I'm
like
sure.
everything though. Like the new seasons, I don't know if they're as good. I
I'm
feel
still. I've only gotten up to season 5 or 6.
Oh, okay.
So I'm kind of.
You have a long way to go yet. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all brilliant, and even the new stuff is good. But it's just something about it. It's like it became too aware of itself nearly.
Yeah.
It's like it's a bit gimmicky now at this point.
I suppose at a certain point it is. It's like, does he just go, "Oh, this is annoying.
Yeah.
All right, let's just go," because it is. They like to have multiple cameras around, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
all kind of improv. So he's like, what about this thing?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's just get it's HBO, so they have a load of money. So they're like,
that's
we'll
it.
fucking throw
It's
it
a
together.
perfect environment though when you think about it
Mm.
to film stuff.
Yeah.
Himself and his friends knocking around and just like we're just going to pretend we're going to be doing this thing now for the next hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I
Paid-
remember-
and everyone gets paid brilliant.
my friend tried to get me into it years ago. And he's like, and they don't even write a script. It's just the bare bones of a concept. You watch it and you're like, what if you wrote some jokes? Remember Seinfeld?
It'd
Everyone
ruin
used
it.
to write jokes.
Yeah. Also, you have seen it.
Oh, I've seen it.
Oh, you've seen it, but you don't like
I just didn't take.
it. Oh, gotcha. That's fair.
Ah,
yeah.
Maybe
It's not as
someday.
punchy. Not as punchy as Seinfeld. Maybe
It's
not.
just them saying the same thing back and forth again and laughing at their own jokes.
Yeah.
Which, that's what this show is.
That's-
So
yeah.
I live it.
You're
too
going to get
much.
very aware now once you start looking at the video episodes that is basically what we do.
Oh, yeah.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Just laugh at our own jokes.
Two friends sitting down laughing at their own jokes and being like, isn't that good enough? Yeah, that's class.
Fuck it. You know what? You
All
can
we
only
do-
try your best.
Did you write a script? Nah, I wrote like 4 notes and we'll just riff it from there.
Was that what you do? So you wrote that story before this show, did you?
Yeah.
And you had your story beforehand as well.
No, one of us researched a story. And the other
Okay.
one just
Yes,
sort
we
of-
take it in turns, so it's only half the amount of work.
Oh, I got
So
you.
that I'll do it. He'll do one next week then, and I won't have to do a tap.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
that's very handy.
I heard somebody tell me before. Somebody did tell me before that they look at news articles and they just like take the story that's in it and then they reword it and make the jokes
yeah.
out of it that way.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the whole story is kind of already there, like a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So they don't need to find like an end to it really. But
No, you're standing on the shoulders of giants.
that's it. You know,
You
if
know.
you're reading the newspaper or the Sunday World.
Yeah,
5'8" giants.
5'8" giants. But that's mad. Sure, we can go down and have a pint in Fallon's.
Yeah, I'd like
Memory.
I thought you were going to say the graveyard will hop the wall.
And the graveyard.
We'll
That's
spill a drop. We'll spill a drop for Dan tonight in Fallon's.
Tonight, yeah.
We'll get his left arm out and send it in the door. Cover it in blue paint and send it off.
But no, I'd say that's us then. So, cheers for
Perfect.
coming on.
Thanks,
Yeah,
lads.
thanks a million. It's good.
Cheers, lads. We'll do a 3 handshake. Handshake.
All together.
Oh,
Fuck the
beautiful.
bugs. Great stuff.